Talk turns to UFOs, aliens, the unknown. It's Coast to Coast AM overnight, every night on WGNS Murfreesboro. We're the Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, audio and video streaming at wgnsradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
Welcome into the Roundtable on WGNS. It is another Wednesday morning, and glad you are with us on what is going to be a beautiful week and a beautiful homecoming week for Middle Tennessee. You know, last week we had to deal with the threat of rain all week and then a rain shower before the football game. Right now, just almost 0% chance of rain all week. And Saturday for homecoming, looks like sunny and 89 degrees with the Duke Blue Devils coming in. And lots of special guests, lots of folks making it home. And one of those coming in this weekend, so tickled, is former Blue Raider men's basketball coach Kermit Davis. And he is my guest for the hour today. And Kermit, I just hope you didn't use up all your good answers and good stories with Andy Herzer last week.
Hey, I got 16 years worth, Chip. You know a bit of them. Some we probably can't tell on the radio, but we got a lot left, I promise you.
Probably can't tell. It's you know, I kind of want to start. I don't want to bury the lead here because you are a member of the Blue Raider Hall of Fame class of 2024. Yourself, Ebony Rowe, one of the all-time great women's basketball players, Jeff Beecham, who still is the all-time hits leader for both middle and in the Sun Belt Conference in baseball, and then Marvin Collier and Jamari Lattimore from Middle Tennessee football. You have been around here for a long time and seen great players go into the Hall of Fame, great coaches and administrators go in. What does it mean to you what did it mean to you to get that call, to know that you're going to be in what right now has over 110 years of athletics? About 180 people are in there.
Yeah, when I was there for 16 years, that was one of the best weekends of the year, Chip. Just going to the Hall of Fame and watching those guys get inducted. And the biggest thing to me was even the players or the coaches that I didn't know that were inducted, that I got a chance to meet, just how much it meant to them, how much Middle Tennessee meant to those guys and ladies, seeing their former teammates come back, seeing their coaches come back. So it's a good weekend, and now it's on homecoming, and that was always another one. We used to I think we're the very first team to ever participate in the homecoming parade 100 years ago. And it's always fun, and Allie's looking forward. I think my grandson Davis and Allie's gonna make the ride or the walk with me when we do homecoming. So a good weekend, and I'm so glad you got some good weather because I follow you guys, and just Buzzards luck the first weekend against Tennessee Tech, and the rain second weekend. So good for a great forecast for homecoming.
So is Allie going to be bringing her vehicle, her electric vehicle that she has ridden around Oxford?
Well, it's all shut down. We moved into a neighborhood. We lived in Gibson Cove for 16 years. It was flat. And now the home that we live in Oxford, we're on the top of this steep hill. There's a lot of hills in the neighborhood, so Betty didn't trust Allie to crank that thing up. So it has not been cranked up maybe since the 2018 homecoming parade.
Oh, wow. There you go. So I'm looking forward to, because, over your 16 years here, Betty and Claire and Allie and your mom and dad and your brother and sister and, all became so entrenched in the community. And I joked with you at one point that in your career, you made a big change. You were no longer, Allie was no longer Kermit's daughter. You became Allie's dad. And she was everybody's kid. And that was great.
Yeah. I guess 8 different states, 11 different cities Betty and I have lived in, coaching around the country. And, Murfreesboro is home, and where you raise your children, I think, is always kind of home. And to watch Allie and Claire grow up and really, and Claire also, but especially Allie, Murfreesboro, Middle Tennessee was a big part of us raising Allie. And so you're right. It's a special place. Allie still thinks she owns the Murphy Center. She watches all the games. I mean, she really does. And she's always been a huge fan of Rick's teams, and she watches all the women's games, and she's great friends with Kim and stays in touch. So we follow it, and she's really looking forward to getting back on campus.
Yeah, well, everybody's looking forward to seeing her this weekend. You talked about people who had gone in the Hall of Fame, and, during your career, you ended up coaching the all-time leading scorer and the all-time leading assist man in the history of the program, and you yourself became the all-time winningest coach on the men's side. For those guys, they went in before you, and I think as a coach, you were happy to see them go in.
You better believe it. And when Reggie called me the other day, Chip, I guess about a month or so ago, I really thought Reggie was about to tell me he was going in. I mean, I really did. And I'm telling you, it didn't even really cross my mind. And so, yeah, as a coach, you're always happy for guys. And I think we'll have many more, as you well know, Chip, over the next years, how long it takes for them to get there. But you're right, for Kevin and Boogie, and then LaRon getting in last year, it meant so much to Middle Tennessee basketball, even though it was 1 year. But, the greatest thing about Kevin and Boogie, and you know this, Chip, I mean, all-time leading scorer and all-time assist, and both those guys, Kevin played with a fractured back his senior year. Boogie, no telling what Boogie would have done. I think he was an NBA player, but, he banged his knee up, was never the same, but he still was productive, with that. And but talking to those guys when I'd visit with them, God, they were so extremely happy to get inducted into a great company as the rest of the Blue Raiders were there.
I tell you, well, you mentioned Reggie Upshaw, and Reggie is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer when he becomes eligible after it's a 10-year wait for athletes after their career is over. And I'm going to take a little bit of credit here because we were thinking about, okay, who needs to call Kermit to let him know? We thought about Kevin because he was already in, Kevin or Boogie, but Reggie is now on Nick's staff, and we said, Reggie would do a good job at this. He's kind of full of it anyway. He can pull this off. And so I coached Reggie up. I said, now, Reggie, here's what's about to happen. You're going to call Kermit, need y'all to chit-chat a little bit, and then you bring up the Hall of Fame. He's going to ask you, are you going in? And then turn the tables on him. So Reggie, as he did for so many years for you, he still can take coaching well.
He can. It was so great. They recruited Reggie at such a young age, because of his dad, had played at middle, so they were around the campus, and to watch him grow. And I was going back and going through some records and looking at his freshman year. He started as a freshman, I think, on the 2014 team, maybe our first year in Conference USA, that, we tied for the championship that year. Then just to watch him evolve into the player and the person that he was. I mean, I think he's going to be an outstanding coach. I talked to him quite a bit. He's really enjoyed working for Nick and their staff, and he's really optimistic about their team this year.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I hope you get a chance to watch them work out when you're up here, because this group that they've brought in, I think they've bettered themselves at almost every position. We can chat about that a little bit as we move forward. But I've been around middle basketball since 81, 82 when I was a freshman, and that team was the one that beat Kentucky, and had a two-time conference player of the year named Jerry Beck on that team, who was, just a great forward. One of the biggest hurdles that we had in those days was Ron Green, who had been at Mississippi State and then went back to his alma mater at Murray and had some really great teams. But, for my money, if I think about all the great players who come through and all those Hall of Famers, there may be a better shooter, there may be a better rebounder, there might be a better assist guy, but if you had to come up with one guy who I think may be the best player who's ever played here, total package, I'm going to go with Reggie Upshaw.
Yeah, Reggie, when you start watching it and watching him develop, when you looked at his size, I mean, a little under 6'8", we listed him 6'8", but how strong he was, and then how fast he was, and then he really developed into a really good shooter that could stretch everything. And then what goes unnoticed, not to you, Chip, but just how smart his basketball IQ was off the chart. I mean, you could just tell Reggie, show him something one time, and it was great. Giddy Potts was like that too. I mean, Giddy's basketball IQ was phenomenal. So you combine all of those things, and then at the end of the day, Chip, who was the person who impacts winning the most? And I think for like 5 straight years, the guy the guy behind them kept breaking their record for the most total wins. He just kept going. And, so he did. He was on some great teams, all the championship teams at the end, and he was such a huge part. And then the iconic win against Michigan State, and one of the greatest plays that I've ever been involved with. I've been around a lot of them, when all 5 guys touched the ball and Reggie dunked it and got fouled. And that was kind of the moment. And I've listened to your call on it, that you said, okay, I think the old Raiders have got this one in the bag right now.
Well, I tell you, that was quite a day, for sure. I'm not sure I've ever been through anything quite like that. I was fortunate to be a student, and I had a 50-yard line ticket the night in Middleby, Kentucky, up at Vanderbilt. So I was there for that one as a student, and then was able to fortunate to be able to call the game. Kyle and I call the win over Michigan State, and just a couple of unbelievable moments. And you're right, that play, ball never touched the ground, and was the perfect exclamation point on what was an incredible day.
Yeah, it was, Chip, and the Michigan State played really well. I've seen Tom several times after that, and I mean, their team was played well. Their team was playing well. They've just won the Big Ten championship. And our guys just, it's always good, those 2-15s, 12-5s, getting off to a start. We got off to a great start, obviously. And, but everybody played well. The bench played well. Great scouting report by the staff. And, the last play, they came across a half and called timeout. And Jaquan Raymond, we're switching everything, made a great steal. And I think right to maybe Giddy, and then Giddy to Parent and Darnell at the half court. And you're right, the ball never touched the floor. And it was such kind of a great play that exemplified that whole team. All 5 guys touched it. The ball moves real quickly, and then Reggie dunked it at the end and got fouled. And, what a great day for the Blue Raiders.
Yep, and the still photo of that still lives on the walls of Murphy Center. And, did Ronnie have the scout on that, Ronnie Hamilton?
I think he did. I think Ronnie did. We, that week, Ed Simpson, remember Ed, who was a big part of our team. He had that unbelievable, horrific ankle injury the day before we opened up in the conference tournament. And so, during that week for Michigan State, I guess I was just petrified of getting a guy hurt. So we didn't do any physical things. And Chip, you've been in our gym a lot of times. That's the one way we didn't do any physicality. Now, we practiced hard, we cut hard, but we didn't do anything live. I just said, I want all our guys are going to be available, and we're not going to take any chances. And so, they did. They just had a great week, great prep week. We kind of deemed it to them that, it's just going to be shirts and skins. Guys, if you just saw each other in Nashville and you just got 10 guys up, one team skins, one team shirts, nobody ever thought they'd lose a pickup game. You just always say you're going to win a pickup game, and because everybody's kind of the same. But when you start putting those jerseys on, and then they're from the Big Ten, and this is what they've done, then kind of things get amplified a little bit. So that was kind of our mantra for the week. Ronnie we will be there on Friday night this weekend, and a lot of the other staff members did a great job, and but it was a fun week.
And nobody watches more film than you watched, and when you started looking at Michigan State tape, there are folks who hope they're going to win going into the NCAA tournament, and there are others who expect to win when they get into the NCAA tournament. This team had an expectation that they could win that game against them, against Michigan State. What told you during that week leading up to it that this team had what it took, and that you guys could, on paper, put a game plan out there that was going to be good enough to win?
It was really all on the players. they had a great bravado. I mean, it was typified when we won the game, and then we just kind of walked on the sideline and shook Michigan State's hands. Nobody rushed the floor. Nobody, wasn't any dog pile. It was just, okay, we're going to go try to win another game. But I just think it was the maturity level of our team. The leadership was so good. Giddy was only a sophomore, but he looked like he was 32 when he played that game. And then Reggie and Darnell and Perrin, Jaquan, Xavier, Carl Gamble. We had just a bunch of older guys, and they did. They just went in and thought they had a great chance. It's the first time, Chip, we switched 1 through 5 the whole year. And so we said we're going to switch 1 through 5, maybe one other time, maybe against Marshall. I can't really remember. I don't really think we did. And so we tried just to throw a little bit of curveball at them to throw them off because they were so good offensively. Then the 1-3-1 really helped us to kind of off-balance them. But then, like all good teams, Chip, they got rolling offensively. And like I said, we scored 90 and had to score 90. I mean, they got in the 80s. So they were a great offensive team, and our guys just played with great confidence for 40 minutes.
Well, they sure did. And to me, one of the real keys was when Michigan State made their comeback, they tied it, but they never got the lead.
Right. They never did, and we made some huge plays, just some great individual plays. We executed out of timeouts on inline of bounds. Players did a great job with that. We called different things on the run, and they were even with that crowd noise. They were so good, so smart. It took a great effort and timely shooting, and we did all of it. It was fun. About every couple of years, I'll go back and kind of watch it. If I ever have a tough loss or something like that, I'll watch some of it because it'll sure put you in a good mood.
Certainly will. Kermit Davis is our guest today on the Roundtable. He will be part of the class of 2024 to be inducted into the Blue Raider Hall of Fame on Friday night at the Tennessee Room in the James Union Building. We're going to take a timeout. More with Coach Davis as we continue along right here on the Big G, WGNS.
Choosing the right insurance can be overwhelming. That's where Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance comes in. At Rayburn, we're not just about policies, we're about people. Rick Hall will take the time to understand your needs and find the best coverage at the best price. We've been serving our community since 1973. So why not let Rick Hall take the stress out of insurance? Rick Hall at Rayburn Insurance Agency, where you're more than just a policy number. You're our neighbors.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
All right, guys, if you're only middle-aged but wondering why it seems harder to keep up, you're not alone. It may be caused by low testosterone. Testosterone therapy, or TRT, can help you get back to your best. But not just any TRT, not those websites offering only basic treatments. You have to see the provider specialist at Low T Center. They offer advanced personalized treatments with over a decade of experience. At Low T Center, you'll start with a simple test and get your results in about 25 minutes. Go to lowtcenter.com to book your appointment online. lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Hi, this is Trevor from Bell Jewelers. We have 4 graduate gemologists, including myself at Bell Jewelers. That gives us the ability to appraise jewelry and give educational information. And we offer to buy customers' jewelry. We can give you a trade offer or a check. Did you realize Bell Jewelers has 2 master goldsmiths, giving us the ability to make something custom just for you? It's about as personal as you can get. Bell Jewelers, 821 Northwest Broad Street, across from Toots.
Bob Ferris lives at Adams Place. The personnel here are excellent, and they are concerned about your well-being. Yes, they're always asking you how are you doing and what can I do to help you, and that's a blessing.
Hi, this is Terry Deal at Adams Place. Call me for more information about Adams Place. Phone 615-904-9111. Adams Place, 1927 Memorial Boulevard, across from Walmart.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by the law offices of John Day and AmeriCare Pest Control.
I've got pests.
It's time to mount a counterattack on mosquitoes and reclaim your yard. AmeriCare Pest Control can help you enjoy your yard again and protect your family from mosquitoes that can carry West Nile and encephalitis. Call 893-7111 to learn more about their mosquito control services.
AmeriCare Services Incorporated. Licensed, insured, and bonded for your protection.
Call the best of the best to get rid of your pests.
893-7111.
For over 77 years, you've depended on WGNS to learn what's happening locally. The Parkinson Support Group meets on the first and third Friday of each month at the St. Clair Street Senior Center. Are you thinking about homeschooling your child? You need to go to a Homeschool 101 workshop for parents and learn more about homeschooling. They're having a workshop next Monday. That's right, Monday of next week, September 23rd, noon until 2, over at Walter Hill First Baptist Church. That's at 6607 Lebanon Road in Walter Hill. They'll cover all you need to know about homeschooling. Again, that's Monday of next week, September 23rd, at Walter Hill First Baptist Church. It's homecoming week at MTSU, and go Big Blue. Don't forget, this Sunday is the first day of fall. Don't throw away Old Glory. Bring your tattered American flag to WGNS and let the girls from BSA Troop 2019 at Trinity United Methodist Church retire it with dignity. Plus, we also recycle Bibles. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Rutherford weather.
Skies become mostly sunny here this afternoon with a high in the mid-80s. For tonight, partly cloudy, a low near 66. Thursday, sunshine, a high around 90 degrees. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS.
Currently, it's 71.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. MTE's EV Car Club has hundreds of members and growing. EV owners, enthusiasts, and anyone interested in learning more about electric vehicles is encouraged to sign up at mte.com/EV Car Club.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back into this Wednesday edition of the Roundtable. Kermit Davis joins us. He'll be part of the 5-person class going into the Blue Raider Hall of Fame this Friday night. And if you're not part of that on Friday night, don't forget the homecoming parade is at 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, coming down East Main Street and making the turn onto Middle Tennessee Boulevard. And Kermit and all of the inductees and their families will be part of the parade, and then, of course, will be recognized on the field during the game against Duke, which is now kicking off at 3 p.m. Kermit, we talked a little bit about some of those guys who are already in the Hall of Fame, LaRon, and as well as Kevin Kanaski and Boogie Yates. There's some other guys that, I mean, it's going to, I think about Bruce and those guys who helped get it going. Sean Jones, that to me, those are some of the great memories. Like Sean Jones, I remember meeting him when we were on a trip to FIU, and he was a senior in high school, and here we are years later, and I'm getting Instagram messages from him, and trying to figure out where in the world he's playing because I can't read anything that's on the Instagram graphics, and he told me he's in Poland now. But that's a guy, he is such a great story, and I think when people know what the story was with him and how you coached him late, that's one of those master strokes and why you are where you are.
Well, thanks, Chip. Sean Jones didn't even start his AAU team. He's from Miami, and Sergio Rocco, our great friend, used to be at FIU. Sergio about him, and he goes, Kermit, I just think y'all too. And a guy named Jared Lazarus was their AAU coach, and we hired Jared as a GA, and Sean was just quiet, wouldn't say boo. had a mom that was unbelievable. Grew up right there in Hialeah in Miami, and just came and just watched him work. And he played on that great team as a freshman. I think with Dindy and those guys, and came off the bench. Then ended up being the Player of the Year in Conference USA in 2014. That's when they had those teams. It was like UTEP and all of them, and Tulane, and I forget SMU. Well, I don't know if SMU was in it. Tulsa. He had a great senior year, and but it was a great story to watch him grow. You start looking back too, Chip. I mean, I never get my first year, and just the Tommy Gunn, William Pippen, John Humphrey. I talked to John the other day, and that team was kind of picked down low, but they left us good players, and a couple of those guys can be in the Hall of Fame. And you kind of go through a guy would have been healthy as Tim Blue, who's still, I think he's still playing, Chip, in France. But you're right, that era of guys, even like the head coach at PCA, Kerry Hammonds, who fought injuries, but was such a big part of our teams. And it's just, I tell you what, Chip, really good players, but just good people, good guys that took coaching and loved coming to the gym.
And that was the point with Sean is, I think before his senior year, that you brought him in and said, Sean, I'm going to coach you like you are the Player of the Year, because that's what we want you to be. And to his credit, again, you were never easy on your best players. And I think, and that's, me on the sidelines and making road trips with you and stuff. And, I might see you get into a guy somewhere and later on in the hotel, I might run into him. I said, hey, Coach got on you a little bit today, but I said, but he wouldn't, if he didn't care, he wouldn't get on you, because if he didn't care, he wouldn't waste his time and his energy on that.
Yeah. They were all, that was a big point of our teams, about being able to coach your best guys the hardest. And, in that run, especially the last, I guess from 2010 on, and the championships that we won. And, Marcos Knight stands out. He's still one of my favorite players I ever coached, ever. Bruce Massey. I stay in touch with Raymond Cintron. I see James Gallman. I mean, just you go on and on and on, and you just keep forgetting them. And but what I was thinking about the other day, really, Chip, when somebody goes into a Hall of Fame, especially as a head coach, all your assistants and players really go with you, because, I mean, they were such a big part, because all you do is in your Hall of Fame, you're thanking people. You're thanking people for what they did, to help you get this honor. And it really is. It's just a weekend of thanks and of all the many people that did so many great things while we were there.
Speaking of that, because, I mean, as you mentioned, you had some good players when you got started, but there were some years there early on where, I mean, it was just a dogfight night in, night out in our conference. And you have good luck along the way. You have some tough luck along the way against some really good teams. What do you think it was? And from a recruiting standpoint or culture standpoint, that really turned the worm on this thing and got it going?
Well, obviously, we had some talented players, and really for about that 3 or 4 years, Chip, that we were like 16, 18, 17, couldn't get over the hump. It didn't seem like. I mean, Boogie hurt, Kevin hurt, Adam Vogelsberg shoulder, Tim Blue knee. It was just like, God, your best players, chance to be all league, and we couldn't ever really get them there just solid. And then late in our time, we won our first championship in 2010 when James Washington came in. They won 19 games. We were 13-5 in the league. I think that was when the divisions were 2 divisions then. And but then, obviously we just, we started getting the best players in the league, and that's what happened. We had 4 players of the years, and those guys could play nationally. And then we started beating national teams all the time. And, and so, like I said, the guy who went in last year, LaRon, was a big part of that. And on that team, that group of Bruce Massey and Marcos Knight and LaRon and, even JT Sultan, great player on that team, and Raymond. So just recruiting, and just hit at a high level. And then for the last 8 years, Chip, that's like I said, we could throw a guy off Murphy Center to the top, nobody get hurt. Everybody stayed healthy. So, like you said, there's some good fortune along the way, and sometimes it doesn't greet you in the right way, but we had some good fortune that last 7 or 8 years.
Well, and that all started. I think, you'd gotten LaRon, and LaRon had to sit out a year after transferring from Iowa State. But I've talked to Kyle about this a lot, and while people didn't see LaRon on the floor as a player his first year until he had to, in those days, now you can transfer, mid-game almost, but in those days he had to sit out a year. But his energy level and all of that really kind of changed the way and the accountability standards that he made other players have.
He did. He loved basketball. He was eat up with it. I mean, he wanted to win. He's a really good junior college player, top 50 player in high school in the country. And then he averaged like 6 a game at Iowa State. So he came in hungry. His best friends with James Washington is really kind of the reason we got him.
I'm glad you were nice to James.
Yeah, sure was. Yep. And then James was a really good player in his own right. James is still playing. He called me when this happened. So he called me, and he's doing great. But you're right. LaRon during that sit-out year was fantastic, almost like what Ja'Cory was.
Yeah.
Came and set out. And, that was a year he set out when we beat Michigan State. So those guys back in the day, there's no sit-out years, but they were very, very effective. But, back then, the sit-out years for both of those guys really, really helped them.
No, it did, and that's probably what propelled them on to be Conference Player of the Year. Now, LaRon's team in his 1 year, speaking of memories here, because that's what this week is all about with Hall of Fame and homecoming and all of that, but the trip to Los Angeles, played Loyola Marymount on a Sunday afternoon and absolutely blitzed them. Had a couple of days off, or 1 day or 2 days. I can't remember. I can't remember if that was a Tuesday or Wednesday night game, but played UCLA. Unfortunately, it was the year that Pauley Pavilion was being renovated, but we played in the LA Sports Arena, which is right next to the LA Coliseum. And Middle comes out, hits 11 threes that night. And again, in just poetic fashion, the final 3 of the night came off the fingertips of LaRon Dindy, and Middle wins by 20 in LA against UCLA. And I think that was the flare that was shot up that night that said this team has something super special.
Yeah, it was. And, Ben had a really good team. And our guys just played the whole night, top to bottom. The bench was fantastic. Then that year, that team beat Ole Miss at South Haven. And then I think Ole Miss went to the NIT that year.
Gosh, and Ray Centrone was so good that night. My gosh.
He was talking Puerto Rican to the whole bench at Ole Miss. I think Sergio was assistant then. Sergio's the only one that knew what he was saying. So, but he did. He made threes from everywhere in South Haven. And then that's a team that, that won at Tennessee at the end. And probably, Chip, one of the greatest games I've ever been a part of was the game that wasn't on TV. We played it in February, I think, when we played Vanderbilt. They were top 15. Oh. We were about to get ranked. We led the whole game. We led late, led by 5, and they beat us at the end. They had those 3 pros, and Kevin had this great, great team, and it really was. I mean, that was a special group, and you just like the misfortunes of we missed some free throws, got beaten in Hot Springs, and and that's the team that could have been a second weekend team in the NCAA tournament because they were that good.
Yeah, that game at Vanderbilt, I've heard people since then talk about that was one of the best games ever played in that building that not everybody got to see because there was no television at all that day.
Yeah, it was no SEC network, obviously, back then. And Vanderbilt had 3 pros. Great team. I forget how they did the NCAA tournament. They were right there trying to win an SEC championship, and our team was just playing lights out. And that Memorial Gym was rocking. And we had a ton of Blue Raider fans. Every ticket they could get, they got. And so it was just an unbelievable afternoon game, and it was a heartbreaker. But, God, we walked out there, and I shook Kevin's hands, and Kevin goes, holy cow, that was a basketball game. I said, Kevin, that's one of the best ones I've been involved with. So it was. You knew both teams knew they were good, and it was a heck of a game. We got Vandy back, though, 3 or 4 times after that, Chip, which was a good thing. But that day it was a great atmosphere for college hoops in the mid-state area.
Certainly was, and the memories keep flowing as Kermit Davis is our guest today on the Wednesday Roundtable. We'll take a timeout, be back with our final segment with the former Blue Raider head coach and see what all he's up to these days and travel down memory lane just a little bit more. You're listening to the Roundtable on WGNS.
We're going abroad for the first time in years, to Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers. So we build specially adapted homes at Homes for Our Troops. And thanks to our donors and supporters, this life-changing gift of freedom is provided mortgage-free to these veterans. But we need you to join us, too, in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
When you have fire, water, or storm damage, Farrah Construction can help. Farrah Construction is also there to help when a car slams through the wall. Call Farrah Construction and we'll board up, put down tarps, secure your home or business until the insurance coverage is approved. Call Farrah Construction at 615-893-6120. I'm Ron Hall. Shop local. Let our family business help you. Farrah Construction Company.
At Bud's Tire Pros, we sell all major brands of tires, and we invite you to stop by today for that next set of tires. Or maybe you need us to check out your vehicle before you head out of town. We offer everything from brakes to batteries, alignments, and more. No appointments necessary, just stop on by.
I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstireprostn.com.
You don't have hot dogs or apple pie or no Chevrolet to drive, but we have some hickory smoked wings you're just dying to try. You'll try them, you'll like them, you'll give some to a friend. So on a dare, just stop on by and bring in a friend. Slick Pig Barbecue, 1920 East Main.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna. Listen and watch at wgnsradio.com.
Welcome back into the Roundtable on WGNS here on this Wednesday morning. Glad to have Coach Kermit Davis with us. He'll be part of the 5-person class being inducted into the Blue Raider Hall of Fame on Friday night at the James Union Building in the Tennessee Room. And he, along with Ebony Rowe from women's basketball, Jeff Beecham from Blue Raider baseball, and Marvin Collier, one of the all-time escape artists in Blue Raider football, and Jamari Lattimore, who is the number 2 sack leader in Blue Raider football history. And interestingly enough, Jamari played for Manny Diaz when Manny was the defensive coordinator at Middle. And so Manny and his Duke football team coming in for the weekend. I tell you, Coach, we made some trips back in the day, especially in those early days. I was thinking about, because you and I, if on those bus trips, you and I were the only 2 people who never went to sleep. And I think you let me choose the movie one time, and after that, you didn't like what I chose, and after that, I never got to choose another movie.
Oh, I know. It was, I tell you what, the trips and the bus trips, there was no charter flights for the Blue Raiders, and we went everywhere. Guy driving to Fort Wayne, Indiana, And then I remember the Conference USA trip, driving to Southern Miss from Murfreesboro, and then Hattiesburg to Ruston 4 hours. And after that game, we would drive 8 or 9 hours straight back from Ruston to, the trip to Marshall bus, Western Kentucky, come back to Middle. So it was good. I bet you we watched the movie Life 20 times. Me and Wynn loved Life, and with Eddie Murphy, and Dendy loved it. And still Dendy talks about it all the time. But, yeah, we did. I forget the movie you picked out, Chip.
It was. I can tell you exactly what it was. It was Inglorious Bastards, which was, and it was, it's a takeoff on, the kind of World War II. But you weren't a big fan of it, so I never got to choose the movie again. But, a couple of trips I remember that it's like, are you kidding me? We left Troy. It was like Troy overnight to Little Rock, or South Alabama overnight to Bowling Green, and in those Sunbelt trips, and I remember we took a sleeper bus one time, and I don't know whether we didn't win at Little Rock or whatever, but we never saw the sleeper bus again.
Hey, and every time we'd be lost on the road trip, we wouldn't stay at the hotel the next year. And for 16 years, you're going to win a lot, but you're going to lose a few too. We got ran out of hotels around the Sun Belt Conference USA a little bit.
Certainly did. Talk about some of your guys that were on your staff, because obviously Win Case, Greg Grensing, Ronnie Hamilton, they were kind of the core late in the later years. But the staff you brought in, they knew they had a job ahead of them.
Yeah, Donnie Tyndall was on that staff. I think Donnie's going to be here this weekend. He's, became the head coach at Tennessee. He's done an unbelievable job at Chipola Junior College. Jeff Walker's on the first staff. Marcus Mason was our GA, and Marcus, I think, maybe come in. He's developed a basketball academy out in Denver that's unbelievable. He's done it for like the last 15, 18 years. And then Artie Papella came in, a great job. And then we had Monty Towell came in, was terrific. Then Greg Grensing was unbelievable. Win Case, Ronnie Hamilton, Jared Lazarus.
Had Rob Moxley came in.
Moxley had signed Marcos Knight, Bruce Massey, and Tweedy.
Yeah.
They was such a big part of it. Then in 1 year, I think he went to NC State as the assistant. And, we had Brian Berg, who became the coach at Georgia Southern. I think he's going to be here. Al Pinkins. So, it was just a bunch of different great coaches. Some became Division I head coaches, and they were just terrific. And they worked so hard and was such a big part of the community.
Well, when you started going through that list, I was thinking, I couldn't remember that there were that many different guys. But, again, on the bus trips, my travel partner was Monty Towell, because Monty and I would sit right across from each other in the aisle on those buses, and we would talk. We wouldn't talk basketball at all. Monty and I would talk music and movies and whatever else, but whatever it took to kill time, whether when you're driving to Mobile or wherever it might be. But I still talk to Monty all the time, and he walked in the gym one day before you had come on the floor, and the guys were out there just putting up some shots, and blew his whistle and said, "Put them in, boys. It's the only thing they give you points for." So, and just typical Monty Towell.
Yeah, he is great. He and his wife PD and were terrific, and I loved having Monty on the staff. And when we'd go play Florida when I was at Ole Miss, Monty was high school coach, kind of part-time down there. He looks great. They're doing fantastic. He's playing a bunch of tennis, and yeah, he was kind of when I was growing up. Monty's a little bit older than me, not that much, but I loved watching him play. Tony Jasic became the head coach at Jacksonville. Matt Woodley, is now assistant at Wake Forest. So there was a bunch of really, really good coaches come through Middle Tennessee when we were there.
Well, and then you have your own rat pack that you kind of run around with, and I know they've got to be tickled. The all those folks on the Tim Floyd tree that you and that whole group, y'all have a big time.
We do. We're in Nashville, probably 4 months ago. It was Tim Floyd, John Brady, Larry Stacy, and that first Idaho staff. It was Larry and I and Randy Bennett, who's now the coach at St. Mary's. We're on the same staff together at Idaho, and I think Tim and John Brady are going to be there Friday night, and so yeah, we talk to those guys all the time, and again, it's just all it is for me is just a gratitude from what Tim and John and Larry and all those guys meant to me. Then you leave out the most important people, the people that gave you the opportunity. Coach Donnelly was such a big part. God,
he's going to be there Friday night.
I love Coach. I mean, the opportunity he gave. Well, we'll tell some good stories on Coach. I'll save those for Friday night. And then Dr. McPhee and Liz. I mean, I had the same president for 16 years. And not only was he my boss, said they were good friends of Betty and Allie and Claire and I. And then Chris Massaro and I had such a great working relationship, such a great friend. And so I was so fortunate, 16 years, worked for one president and 2 ADs. And just great people. So it is. And then you can go down the list of all the other support people that helped you along the way.
When to take it back to when you took the job here, what was it about it then that you thought, yeah, it can be done here?
Well, my dad was always friends with Coach Earl, and Coach is not going to be able to make it on Friday, but Dad and I are going to go by and see him Friday afternoon at his house. Coach is doing good. He's maybe not as mobile as he used to be, but God, his mind, everything is terrific. And just Murfreesboro, we always looked at it from afar, even in the coaching ranks. That job has great, great possibilities. Obviously, we followed it when they beat Kentucky. We sure knew when Bruce Sturr was there and the great teams that Bruce had. Dave Farrar and I are great, great friends. We worked together at Mississippi State and Idaho. So Dave would tell me all the things about it. And so you just knew it had a great chance. And it was in a league, Western Kentucky was kind of the bell cow. And that's who we were chasing early on. And, so we got it going. I remember the very first Sun Belt game we ever coached in. We upset Western Kentucky at home. And that's the team that had gone to the NCAA tournament, lost to Michigan in a close game. Some polls had them preseason ranked top 25 in the country, and we beat them. And then Western beat us that year. We're up at half for the championship at Diddle. I still think it's the largest crowd I've ever seen a game there. And so it got off to a great start. But it was just you knew it had unbelievable possibilities, and after being a year there and just meeting the people, you knew. And I never forget, Chip, that first game. I think we lost our very first game that I coached there. We probably we didn't have 1,000 people, 500 people maybe. In the last 3 home games that we were there, we drew over, I think, right at 31,000 people for 3 home games. And so it can be done. It can be done there. We started kind of at the very base of it, and it was a lot of fun to watch it grow.
You knew from the very beginning that you had to beat Western. And that was on your mind all along the way, and you instilled that in your players, and you never shied away from the importance of that game. It may be one game on the schedule, but it meant more than that.
It did, Chip, because you know what? I'm one of those guys. I'm no fan of the coaches. Well, it's the next game on the schedule. That's bull. I mean, I am a rivalry guy. I'm always been a rivalry guy, no matter where I was. I knew that was the biggest rivalry, the most important game to our fans. It was the most important game to our coaches and players. The great night, Chip, we didn't mention was Dr. Todd's night. Dr. Todd came in, he's dying of brain cancer and not much longer to live. He goes, Coach, I want to see this thing sold out. So he started operations sold out, and Doc went out. We all worked it, and he worked it especially hard. We had 11,807, the record that I hope nobody ever beats, because it just needs to be Dr. Todd's night. And we beat Western Kentucky that night, I think 73-59. And that was some great games we did. What was it? Dennis Felton, Darren Horn, Donald. And then a good friend of mine who's at Jacksonville State now, is a great coach.
I try to forget his name.
Yeah. And then I guess Rick Stansberry. So I went through
Yeah.
about 5 of those coaches, and yeah, that was fun. I tell you one thing, that those games at Diddle and Murphy Center, God, they were so much fun. I loved every minute of it, and there was no better feeling than making that hour and 30-minute drive back if you had a chance to beat the Hilltoppers in Diddle.
When it came time for it to end in Murfreesboro, how hard was that? Because I was around you for your whole 16 years. I met you the day you interviewed for the job, took you down to City Cafe and had breakfast down there. But, you know, I always thought that you were a guy that there was a fire that said, I want to know if my way of doing this can be successful at the highest level.
Yeah, you know, it was you know, my middle, I love middle. I mean, it's the greatest place we've ever coached. I mean, we've coached a lot of different places, A&M and LSU and all of them, but just the people. And it was the hardest decision we ever made. It was because, you know, Allie was so entrenched into the community. You have a special needs child, people get that totally. Betty absolutely loved it. But, you know, I grew up in Mississippi, and it was the SEC, and Middle did everything they could to, you know, to try to keep our staff to stay. So there wasn't a lack of anything they did. It was just, it's the SEC. And it's just, you know, you went down there and played football, Chip, you get it, you know. So, but we had memorable times there. Sometimes it doesn't end like you always want it to end, but we still have great relationships here. But the Middle Tennessee and those 16 years were just as much fun. Didn't win every game for sure, but we had more fun just in that community and raising our 2 girls there.
Well, in the one of the things you had a little say in was you got to, at least from an advisory role, who was going to be next to help carry the torch, and you knew a young guy who pretty doggone smart guy, Nick McDevitt, and who's got looks to be a really good team coming back this year.
Yeah, Nick is you know, like last year lost his point guard. You know, if he stays healthy, I think they're, you know, will be picked in the top 2 to win that league. I mean, obviously you got to probably win the tournament at the end, but knock on wood, Nick's teams stay healthy. They've got good depth, good length, and, you know, the leagues have changed and evolved around the country. I sure hope that, you know, I haven't talked to anybody specifically about it, that, you know, the collective is going at Middle, and it's got to keep going and growing for him. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to watching his teams. I'm going to come up to a couple games this year and follow it. And we wish the Blue Raiders can win a championship and get back to that tournament.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a fun weekend. The crew you're going into the Hall of Fame with, you probably saw Lattimore play some when he was playing for Stock, but you got to see
4 of them. I watched all 4 of them.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, I watched Chef, Ebony. You know, I'll tell you, Marvin, if he played for Coach Donnelly, then he's old like me, so I didn't get a chance to see Marvin play, you know. But I watched those guys play and watched Ebony play, and they're all terrific players. And, yeah, Lattimore was a monster, you know. And I remember Manny well, obviously, when he was at Middle, and the great defenses he had for Stock. So it'll be fun to visit with those guys and spend the weekend with them.
You think are you going to is it going to be more laughs or tears this weekend?
It'll be laughs. You know, I think maybe a small part of some reminiscing, but God, it's just so many good times. I would like to say this, though. I'm going to say a little bit about it on Friday night, but, you know, we all get together, players and coaches. We do talk about the games and the wins, Chip, but I'm telling you, we talk about, especially the players, you know what they want to talk about? The hard practices. Coach, you remember that day when you kicked so-and-so out of practice? Remember that day and that 3-on-3 rebounding? You remember that? I mean, remember that day we kicked him out of the locker room? I mean, it was almost, and I'm the same way as a player. It was so, what a lot of players are not getting the chance to do now because this portal is going through hard. And hard is good. You know, we all need to go through it. And so our guys were just so tough and so resilient. And so we'll have a lot of laughs with the staff and the different players just about, you know, the hard things that we went through to get to the good times and the happy locker rooms.
Yep, and I've heard you say that 100 times, that you do it for happy locker rooms, and that 2 or 3 minutes after a game is what it's all about. And I'm like you. I mean, I remember games, and certainly there are certain big ones, but to me, what I remember the most are those guys who played for you in the early years, and they may be back this weekend with their kids and showing off, here's where I played, those kind of things. And when you've been around as long as I have, those are the things that you really cherish, because, they come by and still call me by name and things like that. And that means a lot.
Well, it should, Chip, but nobody has been, you're so great at what you do, and you've been such an integral part. Nobody knows more about Middle Tennessee athletics than you. Maybe you and Dick Palmer, I'd have to say 1 and 2. I don't know who's first. Dick's older than you, but I don't know. You have a great recall of all the different athletes in all the sports. So it will be. It'll be fun, and we'll have a lot of laughs. And I'm looking forward to getting back to Floyd Stadium and watching Middle Tennessee play football. And 3 o'clock kickoff is a great time for the kick. Gonna have beautiful weather, and so yeah, it's gonna be a fun weekend for everybody.
Kermit, thanks so much for spending some time today.
All right, Chip, sure enjoyed it.
All right, you'll be able to hear him during basketball season on Sirius XM Channel 84 with our pal Chris Childers, who will actually be working with me during the homecoming parade on Saturday. That is it for today's Roundtable. If you missed any of this, you can be sure and go to the podcast section of wgnsradio.com. We'll see you at the stadium this weekend, and we'll talk to you again next Wednesday right here on the Big G, WGNS.